I want to start this video by saying who didn't watch our live? Early in the morning, bringing you the protest of Flamengo fans at the door of Everton Araujo's house. Party going on. According to the fans, they were there at 2 in the morning because there was a party with Flamengo players, with some Flamengo players, Everton Araujo's birthday. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. I'll leave the video here at the end screen where we even show images of Wesley Ramon about the criticism that the Flamengo players didn't go talk to the fans, didn't go listen and talk about what's going on. Once again, they ran away. Flamengo players ran away from the pressure, from the conversation. They didn't want to. And I'm out here because my son is sleeping in there right now, so I'm going to make less noise here. I came out to the barbecue area to make less noise. Guys, I just wanted to talk to you. I want you to check out the other video, the live stream we did earlier. But Flamengo is for those who want to be there. If they're already uncommitted, besides, I'm not going to talk about Everton Araujo, who played really well in the last few games, even deserving to be a starter. But an athlete's behavior has to always matter, especially when coming off a loss. When there's a game tomorrow, the semifinal is tomorrow, there's practice now. Practice was happening just now while I was recording. The guys partied until late into the night. If you want to celebrate your birthday, celebrate up to a certain time. The guy is an athlete. Now, here's my question, and I would really like someone to ask Filipe Luis at the press conference, who is supposed to hold these players accountable. Because if the player isn't holding himself accountable, and you, Filipe Luis, were a disciplined guy when you played, who's going to hold these players accountable? Is it the coach? Is it Boto who's going to hold these players accountable? Is there a dialogue with them? What's going on? How is it? Can this be solved? Someone has to hold them accountable. Someone has to demand athlete behavior. It's easy to say you're going to fine the player because he said this or that, but what about attitude? What about athlete behavior? Oh, but he's on his day off. No, he wasn't on his day off, but it's a time to stay at home. Guys, you can't control that. There's no team concentration the day before training. But if it's widely publicized, if people are seeing what's happening, it's up to whoever the coach is. Is it Boto? Who is it? Who's going to hold these guys accountable? Someone has to. And then we have some behind-the-scenes information here, which GE brought yesterday, and Flabolado talked about it. Right? I'll just bring this information here, that according to GE, Coach Filipe Luis still maintains control of Flamengo's locker room, even with the growing pressure for results. Internally, however, the atmosphere is considered more sensitive, especially after the loss to Lanús. The statement that the team played a great game didn't sit well with part of the squad and caused discomfort behind the scenes. According to GE's investigation, there is a perception that the coaching staff's communication has been more focused on players considered leaders, such as Rascaeta, Bruno Henrique, Danilo, Jorginho, Leo Pereira, and Alexandre. In other words, he doesn't talk to the others. And then he lost that control with those other players, even throwing parties and all that. I don't know what else. Although he has support from this core group, the atmosphere at the training center is strained. He still leads the locker room, but there is friction. The situation also involves friction in the relationship with President Luis Eduardo Batista, BAP, especially since the contract renewal signed at the end of last year. In that negotiation, when he had his agent handle things, I had already told you this didn't sit well. So Flabolado talked about this. Look here, look at what Flabolado said.
Leo Pereira, Jorginho, Danilo, and Alexandre, those are the only Flamengo leaders that Filipe Luis talks to. The rest of the players are kind of left out, and this has made the group dissatisfied. Another thing, the players only find out who's going to play during the pre-match talk 1 hour before the game. Yeah, he trains several lineups, so the players can't build chemistry that way.
That's right, build chemistry. That's true, that's really true.
Man, Flamengo played well. It was a bomb for Barco, for Boto, okay?
And in the group itself too, Danilo didn't like it either.
Arrascaeta, Filipe Luis must demand accountability, but so must the technical director.
I'm not sure if he left drunk.
Boto has to demand accountability too. He's the technical director. The things that happen internally.
But proper athlete behavior has to be demanded by everyone in football. That's it, right?
He'll have the final say on sponsorships and similar matters. The technical director and coach need to organize things.
The technical director and the coach too.
And there are a lot of things happening there that are making Flamengo lose its style in 2026, and it has to change soon. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
And there was the issue with the party last night, and all of that affects the soccer. BP is there to manage, right? To manage as well. But he has already made it clear in some previous interviews that at the end of every year, at the end of every season, he evaluates the work. And he chose to continue with Filipe and Boto. But this start to 26 is really strange. Who's demanding? Who's going to demand? Who's going to hold people accountable? It's time for Mr. Boto. It's time for Mr. Filipe. They should insist these players act like athletes. That's a great press conference question. Who will demand the behavior Filipe showed as a player? Who's going to demand the same kind of behavior as Filipe? That's the problem. Who's there to demand it? And then we also have here that Boto was criticized by the fans. They even talked about kiosks and all that. Let me tell you about that. I'm not sure if he goes to kiosks, probably not, but they discussed it and he'll be held accountable as well. And he also became the target of criticism after the loss to Lanús. He was mentioned in banners and chants at the Ninho do Urubu training center. And despite the external pressure, according to GE, Boto remains respected internally and is considered a trusted man of President BAP. Even so, he is not unanimously supported at the club, and there are criticisms about his communication style, which is seen as quiet after some problems. Then, regarding Pedro's situation, he kept more to himself, right? He talks to foreign newspapers and all, but he's been keeping more to himself. Maybe that episode with Pedro made him more withdrawn, which is not good. He could be a bit more active and talk less about situations that might cause discomfort, something like that, like what happened with that news about Mauro Cesar, that whole thing with Pedro. Yeah. So we have a few situations to bring to you guys. Look, according to Mauro Cesar Pereira, Everton Cebolinha's statement after the defeat to Lanús at Maracanã was not well received internally, and he confirms the information we brought yesterday that Everton Cebolinha's situation did not sit well with the board. But Mauro brings some news here, some updates. According to him, the forward was strongly warned by the board because of the incident. In other words, he got a warning. He was called in for a talk and got a warning. That's when he was confronted internally. And given the repercussions, the club created a code of conduct for interviews and statements that could harm the institution. He has a contract until December 31st. He still has 10 more months to fulfill. From now on, the understanding is that they will fine athletes who do not inform in advance the content of their statements or fail to consult the press office, especially in situations that generate controversy. Cebolinha's words caused discomfort among the board. Okay, so it's an important situation for us to talk about. We had brought this to you, and then we were the first to bring this story that Cebolinha, as you must have seen, had caused discomfort. The board and now the entire press are confirming the story we brought. So, guys, there's a lot going on. We know that Flamengo is in a tough spot right now. They need to get out of this situation, and they need commitment from the players. It's one thing to celebrate your birthday early, but partying all night is different. It's a disgrace. There's no discipline or accountability for the players' behavior, right? So, the fans are bringing back Boto's statement, right, about spending another year in Brazil before going back to Europe and all that. People are talking a lot about that here, right?
Then think about returning to Portugal, or at least to Europe.
Then think about returning to Portugal or at least to Europe. A project that appeals to me. I'll play devil's advocate here. Let's go. He says the following: I'll stay in Brazil for at least one more season, then I'll think about something else. I don't see that he really, in this case, I don't see that he really meant that he wants to leave. Okay, I honestly don't see that. People are sharing this now, but I don't see it. So I think there's a lack of leadership, a lack of accountability. Saying there will be a fine is pointless if it's not enforced when a player acts unprofessionally. The fine must actually be imposed, especially in this case. You guys have to set an example. Soccer players have to be athletes, and you have to set an example, and that's not happening, okay? So people are saying that the management seems to be losing control because while they choose to only warn the players, they stop holding them accountable. Filipe Luis's firmer stance in leading the team, there's that too, okay? There's that too. So all of this is worrying, man. Right now, a lot of people are saying that there are players who are fighting, who aren't talking to each other, and so on. It's obvious that in the team, some players are closer to each other. But all this talk about fights and everything else, man, there's a lot of stories there, a lot of stories. They're going to make up a lot of stories. The guys are going to make up a lot of stories. That's the reality. That's the reality. They're going to keep making up a lot of stories. Now is the time for, oh, this player is fighting with that one. I also don't believe everything you guys are hearing. The guys, everyone gets along, everyone talks to each other, everyone talks to each other. They could even be best friends. Each one is individualistic in their own way. Each one has their own individual moment. There are those who are friends. Now, there have already been stories about players fighting with each other and all that. Everyone talks to each other there. Some have more affinity with others. Okay, there's no click thing, none of that. There are just players who get along better. So, what I think is right is this: players like Danilo, Arrascaeta, and so on, Pedro, players there who have the behavior of an athlete, a real athlete. I'm not even saying that one has it. I'm saying those who have it need to demand it from those who don't. And Felipe has to demand it too. And Boto has to demand it too. That's the reality. Okay, so is it because of him when he interprets? There was that man, nothing can be less, right? Don't come with that talk that the guy was developed by the team. He's already played, right? He's already played for Lanús, right? Look, Flaco Lopez, Palmeiras' player, still feels the Libertadores final and losing the Brazilian championship to Flamengo to this day. The guy is literally enjoying someone else's success. Flaco Lopez enjoying someone else's success. That's really it, right? You have to celebrate someone else's win because you couldn't beat Flamengo, Flaco Lopez. Don't claim you were just happy for Lanús. Don't use that excuse. No, because the problem is with Flamengo, that's the real story. Oh, no, it's because he's a former Lanús player. He's celebrating because he's the ex. No, he's celebrating because he rooted against Flamengo and couldn't beat Flamengo. That's it. It's the same thing. I'll say it here. Damn fans. Oh, Flamengo, Corinthians, Coringo, Corinthians beat Flamengo and all that in the Super Cup and all. It's better than yours. They got beaten by Novo Horizontino, which shows even more that Flamengo is a mess. It's easy. Flamengo is terrible. They can't even beat a Corinthians that loses to Novo Horizontino. That's the reality. It shows even more the terrible situation Flamengo is in. This win by Novo Horizontino against Corinthians shows the situation Flamengo is in. But we're talking about Flaco Lopez here, right? The player shared the Argentine team's post celebrating the title. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then people say, no, he wasn't provoking because he was brought up by the Argentine team. Guys, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. When he shared it, it was to look good, to show off to the Palmeiras fans. The Palmeiras fans never even imagined he was talking about Lanús because he was brought up by Lanús. He just wanted to have fun at someone else's expense and mess around. Flamengo is the point, man, period. Just admit it. Admit it already. You're still traumatized, right? From last year's issues. That's it. Okay. And then, obviously, right, is it? He started in the Lanús under 20 team in 2017. He got his first opportunity in 2020. He was transferred to Brazilian football in 2022. But we know that his jokes, his posts go way beyond just the Lanús thing, right? It's just to poke fun at Flamengo, not to take credit for others' achievements. Like I said, I don't hold back. I say what I think, and that's it. So yeah, yeah, look. We had the Coluna do Fla saying that Leonardo Jardim is a good option to replace Felipe Luis. Guys, look, first of all, it's not the time for us to think about that. We were really irritated after the game, but it's not the time for us to talk about a replacement for Felipe Luis. If there's a replacement for me, it's Jorge Jesus or Leonardo Jardim, right? And then they talk about this information about Leonardo Jardim and all that. That was when Flamengo was negotiating the renewal and was having difficulties, and Flamengo really did reach out. You know, Leonardo Jardim at that time really is a name that BAP likes, right? Flamengo, BAP has Leonardo Jardim at the top of his list. Boto too. Leonardo Jardim is at the top of the list. So did Flamengo. They consulted him. When Filipe wasn't renewing, wasn't able to, he even showed himself open to talks, okay? The information is that Leonardo Jardim even showed himself open to talks, but Flamengo sealed the renewal with Filipe Luis. Okay, he did. We know that Leonardo Jardim didn't want to stay in Brazil. He wanted to have a moment of peace and all that. But according to the information published by the column, he would have agreed to negotiate with Flamengo, to open negotiations. Now he's at the top of BAP and Boto's list in case something happens, in case it's not possible to continue with Filipe. Honestly, yeah, I don't like this thing of constantly changing coaches. I'm dissatisfied with some of Felipe's decisions. Yeah, but I believe it will get better. I believe it will get better. It has to begin by holding people accountable, including the player who isn't an athlete and the entire squad. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, guys. So just grab this here, okay? We have Flamengo in 2026, getting close to the number of defeats from 2025. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. In the 14 games of 2026, Flamengo won 5, drew 2, and lost 7. That's fewer wins than losses, with a success rate of about 40%. Of those losses, it's worth noting that 3 had a title at stake, 2 against Lanús in the Recopa and 1 against Corinthians in the Super Cup. In 2023, a season that so far resembles 2026, Flamengo took 21 games to lose the same 7. In other words, it's worse than 2023. In the best campaign of 2020, the 7th loss only came in the 48th game, according to SofaScore's data. So look how many games it took Flamengo to reach the same number of losses of 2026. In 2020, 48 games. In 2021, 41 games. In 2022, 35 games. In 2021, no, in 2023, sorry, in 2021, in 2024, 45 games. In 2025, 45 games. Guys, Flamengo only reached this number of defeats. In 45 games, Flamengo at this moment has played 14 games. It's scary what's happening. Filipe Luis, Jose Boto, and company. It's scary that Flamengo is reaching the same number of defeats as last year's 45 games with 14 games. Scary. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. We can't take it. That's it. I invite you to follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe down below, turn on the bell notification, and leave that cool like on the video. I'll also leave Flamengo's official products here for you to get right now on YouTube Shopping. All right, and our sponsors are there in the pinned comment. Take care. Thanks. I'm out.